How far advanced are you with your discussions with other government departments, HMRC and Transport, in prioritising key food goods which may be perishable, or even live or dead weight animal exports, which clearly need to be prioritised and not delayed?
So that's a discussion which is starting across government, and colleagues may want to chip in. So that there is an understanding that the Dover Straits in particular, the Ro-Ro ports, are where a lot of the perishable food comes in, and we need to make sure that we've got the right mechanisms in place. But that's really how we fit in, how food fits into a broader picture. So it's probably might hand over to. Yeah.
I mean, that answer, to be frank with you, sounds a little concerning, because when the supermarkets and other shops are relying on just-in-time food chains, not only is there a risk that the food will pass its sell-by date, there's a risk that actually the shops will not have the supplies that they need. I mean, I would have thought this was one of the highest priority areas for Brexit to be considered.
So it absolutely is, and it is very much the subject of discussions across government at the moment. So there's been a lot of analysis to understand where food is coming in. So about 10% of food products come in, of our food consumed comes in through the Dover Straits. So we need to understand what of that can be rerouted, how we make sure that we are giving adequate priority, but also how we support the very complex, it's a very sophisticated supply chain in food. So it's not something, we aren't controlling all of that ourselves as government. What we're trying to do is to support the logistics companies, the retailers, all of the people involved in the food supply chain to make sure that they can bring food in.
Thompson, this is a really important matter. I mean, even that 10% from Dover, if there's a significant disruption to food coming into this country, will mean shortages on the supermarket shelves. What more? I mean, you're both chairman of this cross-border committee. What more can your committee do to ensure that this doesn't happen?
So to be fair, it's not clear as jointly chair engaged Shona Gunn, who's the second permanent secretary of the Home Office, but perhaps I can answer your question one back, if one might. So the question of prioritisation only arises because of two prior steps. The first of those, I think Claire has set out, which is you need to do an assessment of the capacity loss which might be plausible in the event of day one no deal. That work has been done and given to ministers about what might be the impact on capacity across the short straits. You then, and as part of that work, we've been looking at what might be alternative routes for traffic to flow. You secondly then have to make a decision about should the government intervene in that market or not, and ministers have yet to make that decision. Then thirdly, if you decide there is a reduction in the capacity and if you decide the government ought to intervene, that only then do you get to your question about what would be a prioritisation methodology. So ministers have considered the first of those steps, but yet, and I've seen some early work on intervention and prioritisation, but are yet to make any decisions.
Any discussion being had with the NFU or anybody else? If these foodstuffs or animals are delayed through no fault of the farmer or the exporter or the haulier, is the government liable for any compensation?
We're in very regular discussion with the National Farmers Union and other bodies. I think it's, in a sense, as Mr. Thompson was saying, you go back a step because it's not necessarily a question of food being delayed. It's a question of how the market responds and whether or not particular types of food are transported through particular methods. This is not an area where the government would expect to be paying compensation. But what we do need to do is absolutely to work with this very diverse supply chain to provide all the support we can to make sure that the arrangements are in place.